Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to the lies of the science-denying Globeheads. On this edition we will be looking at Charles, otherwise known as Flat Earth Math, and hopefully shedding some light on the engineering put into the deception we know as the globe. Now, I'm joined by Anthony Riley. How are you doing, Anthony? Good to have you.
All is good, all is good.
Excellent stuff. So you've got some Chrome thing going on. What's this? Flat Earth Math, trig this. What would you be talking about?
Well, okay, so I did the observation the other day, and the rumpus claimed I was at about a meter above water, 3.3 feet above water. That's nonsense. I was less than a foot in my counter to him. However, Flat Earth Math then came out with a response video, and he put in it a load of maths, and I'll be honest, Nathan, I didn't really pay too much attention to the maths. I just looked at the answer he gave and realised he came out with 9 feet. 9 feet is preposterous. I called him on it, and he stood by his position, and I was like, this is ridiculous. So I spoke to Nathan, and I says, right, I'm here now. What do I do? How do I go and prove this wrong? And he said, go and do the trig. So obviously, today I went down to literally to the water's edge, and I got the trig. I did it based on a 140 feet distance to the actual water, and got the angle for them. And my challenge is to Flat Earth Math to do the trig on this. I could just play this and we could interrupt periodically throughout it, or we could just play it and just let it run and then laugh at them at the end. It's up to you, Nath. Should I just play it and see where we go?
If you feel there's something that needs adding, just click play. We'll see how we go.
Let's do it. Okay, so here we are again at St. Bees, outside the coffee shop. And the purpose of today's experiment is to get some trigonometry values for Flat Earth Math. Flat Earth Math thinks that there was 9 feet difference between where I was to where the water level was. So as you can see, lovely day here in the UK today. So down onto the beach. Drop down these pebbles. It's going to be interesting doing this today because the beach is pretty busy and the tide's on its way in. So for me to get an angle, I'm going to have to fight the incoming tide. And with it being so flat here, it means I'm going to have to try and work around the tide. So I'm not going to go straight into the water because my camera's going to get wet. I'm not prepared to do that for you morons. So as you can see, the tide does go quite a way out. Oh, and Ruhif. Even at 6 feet, look how all the people are below the horizon. And if I drop down, even the children stay below the horizon, but the taller people closer to me do not. It's an issue of proximity. I have with me a dog bowl. I'm going to turn upside down so I can sit the camera on it and take measure. Now, the distance from the water last time I was here was about, 80 feet or so. So, probably about here somewhere. So, it's like 360. I'll do a 180. St. Bees Head. Can't really see the Isle of Man today. Let's try it anyway. Yeah, you can just about see it. Obviously, I'm at about 5 foot camera height at this point. So what I'm going to do
gonna flick over the dog bowl. In fact, actually first. Right, so just come back. So what I'll do is I'm gonna film. There we go. I'm gonna film. Put my camera on that. See if I can aim it somewhere. Zoom it in a bit. No, did it right? Yeah, that was. Right, just stay here for me. Just go left a bit, right a bit, left a bit, right a bit, so that I'm in the picture. And that's all I need to do.
Just look at the little layer of dirt there at the horizon. 140 feet with that. Got it playing in the top corner as well.
Right, it's pointed at me. Right, I'm going to try and get a diopter now. So, I'm going to get it from looking up. See? Water is right around me. The actual water. Shit.
And what I do want to ask people is what kind of obstruction are we looking at here? Because don't forget, Flat Earth Math reckons this is 9 foot. We're at 140 feet away. So is it 9 foot or less?
I just stay here, but get me filming it the other way. And now here we go, doing the other way. screen. It's too fucking bright. Done. Right, let's pop that.
Okay, the results are in. Flat Earth Math claims I was 9 feet above the water, while the measured angle was 0.6 of 1 degree over a distance of 142-ish feet. It gives you an elevation above the actual water of 1.49 feet. So I said about a foot. It turns out to be less than 1.5 feet, but Flat Earth Maths calculated it was 9 feet, and obviously therein lies the problem. Maths are not the real world. Now obviously this is the real clip, the actual clip at the time, and the only real issue is to compare how the distance. The distance appears to be a little bit closer on this one than it was when I did the measurement. Who cares? It's not 9 feet, it's less than 1.5. That is a fundamental problem. Maths does not shape our world, evidence does. Haha.
Ace. That's really cool. Very, very cool.
So, Flat Earth Math reckons that we're at 9 feet above the actual water based on a calculation that he did. And I'll be honest, Nath, I didn't really understand or listen to what maths he applied. I saw a couple of pictures of what he was doing. Didn't really think about it. I just knew that 9 feet is nonsense. So, how do you deal with that? Do you go against the maths, and do you go against a high school teacher or whatever he is? No. You go back and you get evidence and you show that what the high school teacher and what the maths did was massively wrong. So I don't know what maths did, but the maths that Flat Earth Math did was clearly wrong. It was like 10 times bigger than what it should have been. So I don't care what maths you did, Flat Earth Math. What matters is what is the evidence, and the evidence clearly shows that there was basically next to nothing. It was 1.5 feet, and that was based on 140 feet of distance. I did my observation at about 80. So how much do you want to take off 1.5 feet? Should we call it a foot? It's not far out, that, Nath. I guessed it based on my perception, and it turns out that, hey, what do you know? My senses weren't wildly inaccurate. Unlike Google Earth, unlike the maths, unlike Flat Earth Maths. What else needs to be said?
I mean, it's outrageous. We said it all along, that claiming that there was 9 feet there is absolute outrage. And I've been there and I've seen what you've seen, how flat it actually is. And you can see from the measurements. You know, I mean, I've looked at your measurements. Admittedly, you were, the crosshairs was perhaps slightly above the camera, but that works in their favour. So ultimately speaking, you're right. 0.6 of a degree, it's nothing, absolutely nothing. Yeah, there we go. What the actual trig came out when you extended it to pretty much the length of the tape measure to get a better reading, ran it all the way up to the shore. What did you say it was? 144 feet.
143 feet, but my actual observation was about 80, maybe 100. Who cares what it was? It definitely wasn't near 150. So how much do you want to take off that 1.4 feet?
Yeah, 1.49 feet is what you've got as the measurement between 44 feet away from the shore and the shore. And, that's going to get slightly less if you move it in a little bit. But it's like I say, it's irrelevant. We're talking inches. We are definitely not talking feet here.
Yeah. So the moral of the story is that you may explain stuff with maths, but if the maths doesn't represent the real world, then it can be dismissed because it's wrong, even if the maths works out. Preposterous. Oh, by the way, Nath, isn't this all based on the assumption or the presumption that the horizon is about 3 miles away?
Yeah, he dropped that little nugget in. I mean, there's lots of presupposition that's working here, but none of it is relevant. All that is relevant is you've gone out, you've measured it, you've done the standard fare with the diopter app and the tape measure, and you've measured how high you are above sea level. In this instance, to the actual sea level itself. Massive shout out to Joey for the super chat. But yeah, you've done the job, mate. You've done a really good job. You've shown how high you are above the actual sea level. You've gone out and got wet, and you didn't want to do this when we talked about it earlier. I'm really chuffed because it's the first time I've seen that video. But yeah, unfortunately, sometimes you've got to get your hands dirty. And in this case, it's get your feet wet. But that's what it takes to show these idiots that they're completely disingenuous and they've manufactured 9 feet out of nothing. Literally, he's strapped on an extra 7.5 feet. If you're pessimistic about how high you are, and if you want to study the video afterwards, go back to Anthony's. It's uploaded on Sleeping Warrior channel. You can study it in great detail. You can study the diopter that he's took, and you can't engineer 9 feet out of that. It's just absolutely absurd. But that's what we're dealing with here. We're dealing with people who are essentially engineering in curve on an exponential scale into a flat plane, which is where we live. The Earth is obviously and observably flat, but people like Charles engineer in drop with fallacious horizons. It's just absurd.
And obviously the bigger picture, of course, is that this has all arisen as a consequence of this video, in which I caught the north end of Isle of Man at the request of numerous people: Mark Taylor, Slice Barkane, Rumpus, Paul Voigt. These whole people said, like, go back and get it from the beach, Anthony, go back and get it to the beach. So when I've gone back and got it from the beach, for some reason the observer height still is an issue. And it's obviously and observably the case that I am right on top of the waters, the surface of the water at this point. So this is the land that was caught. And obviously, as the video zooms out, I take the effects off. And for some reason, they think that this is 9 feet above the actual water. Not that it makes any difference to the maths, of course. You shouldn't see that far. The horizon's supposed to be 3 miles away at 6 feet of elevation above water. Well, if you're telling me that the horizon's 3 miles away when I'm seeing land at 34 miles away, and I'm lay on the beach on my belly, and I'm that close to the water, then the horizon cannot be 3 miles away, can it? It has to be like 34 miles away or whatever. How is that even? It doesn't make any sense. It's obviously, observably, and verifiably not a ball. It's flat.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think that's probably the best point to round this out. So I'm going to say, first and foremost, a massive thank you to Anthony Riley for joining and presenting his information to absolutely pummel the living daylights out of the mathematical assertions made by Flat Earth Math, otherwise known as Charles. Another shout out to Joey for the super chat. Massive thanks to all of the live audience for tuning in. Please be sure to share this debunking far and wide, as it will be extrapolated upon by us in a massive way. As I said earlier, this is the way and the how of how they deceive people into thinking that they live on a spinning ball, engineering in exponential drops where they do not exist. And with that, I'll say a massive one more thank you to Anthony Riley. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!